Coming up on Closetista.com, we're going inside the home of Geren Lockhart, designer and founder of Geren Ford. Can't wait to see you there.
Cause your heels roll by so slow behind your eyes, but you ain't so goddamn fast.
Hey Closetistas, I'm your host Brooke Sirianni, here today in the beautiful LA home of Geren Lockhart, designer and founder of Geren Ford. Geren, thank you so much for being here, for inviting us into your home today.
Of course.
We have some great pieces from Geren, but first I want to hear a little bit about your experience in the fashion industry. How did you get into it?
I made a pair of pants for myself that solved a problem in my own life while I was studying at Parsons, and I was still in advertising in New York. And one thing led to another. People wanted them, and I sort of started really early on, before contemporary was necessarily what it is today. And it's just one step in front of the other. You know, each season got bigger, and each season got a little more depth to it. I didn't actually grow up in the fashion industry. I grew up in advertising, so I spent a great deal of time learning about branding and sort of synthesizing ideas about product. And we definitely brought a lot of that in as we started to design and manufacture.
That's great. And your upbringing too, did that have anything to do with it? You were kind of bi-coastal in a way?
Yeah, from 5 years old on. My dad got into the Whitney, I think 75 or 76, I can't remember which year it was.
Wow.
And so he moved to New York, sort of the cowboy artist, let's all go, the gold rush of artists that went to New York. And he lived on Broadway in Soho next to what used to be Canal Jeans. And so I spent my summers and holidays and various periods of time there with him. And then I grew up in Northern California with my mom and her family. So it was really an interesting thing. My father was a painter, my mother was a costume designer. And I think the 70s and 80s, well, primarily the 70s, it was about craft and sort of people's hands touching objects, and we still made things in America. And I learned how to sew when I was 6 and embroider, and my dad just color balance and texture and sort of freedom, and thought that like you can actually create something. So I think a lot of that definitely came from not only my parents, but the people that they were friends with, and sort of I was the only child and of my family, and generally of all of them as well. And there were no, like all my cousins and stuff were younger than I was, so I was sort of the only kids. Was like, you know, just a little observer, like a scientist, watching them do their, you know, 70s craft-oriented art thing.
That's great. So this Geren Ford was your first foray into anything in the fashion industry. You had to kind of start from scratch.
Yes, I made a pair of pants, and I worked in production in film, and or not movies, but in commercials and shoots and stuff. It was my first sort of step truly into the fashion industry, and I worked on Levi's and a couple of other accounts when I was at Chiat in advertising. And then the transition when I left my executive job and I had just started the company, I actually styled in costume design for a while. So I worked on jobs for Nordstrom and American Eagle. And I sort of got to see the inside of some of the companies that I was going to be working with, and I'm just a research junkie, so I did a lot of research. And then I took my experience from 2 or 3 different jobs I'd had in advertising, sort of taking a raw material and an idea and combining them together to create a finished good or a branded item. So it was definitely that sort of philosophy.
Yeah, that's great, the whole process. So today we have 3 items from Geren, and the great thing about this is that now through December 3rd, anything you purchase on the site, 10% will go to one of the 3 charities we're working for. So yeah, it's Smile Train, MS Society, and Dress for Success. And it'll give you a chance to get some great pieces of clothing and also do some good this holiday season for the charities. So the first piece we're featuring is the pleated collar blouse. This retails for $271. The color is gray.
Yeah, it's called Gray Waves. It's a 100% silk shirt produced from a print that is custom for us. The entire collection was sort of inspired by Louise Bourgeois from a color palette perspective and from her artwork. So we sort of take it and interpret it into the collection, always trying to bring sort of the design philosophy of much higher end design into contemporary. It's easy fitting, anybody can wear it. You could wear it with jeans, you could wear it out, super fancy sequin skirt, you could wear it with mile-high shoes, you could wear it with flats or flip-flops, to be honest with you. And we love the idea of things that transition from season to season. So ideally, this shirt, you buy it now, you really can have it for the rest of your life.
Exactly. And it has really cute buttons.
Yeah, the buttons are, all the details are always crazy, but there's these little shell buttons that have a really interesting etching.
Yeah, that's great. And so the Louise Bourgeois is on the bottom 2/3 of the blouse. And
it's a panel print.
Like a nice texture, I think.
Yeah, it's a panel print. When I was on one of my trips to New York, my dad's ex-girlfriend actually worked at NBC, and so I would always go visit her and go to lunch at the commissary with Tom Brokaw, because I thought he liked to have lunch with me. And I really was convinced, and I was obsessed with them. So I walked into the courtyard at Rockefeller Center, and there had been an installation of her spiders. And I had an emotional reaction to it, and obviously I was sort of raised as an art brat. And I just remember taking it in, and I didn't really know much about it, and it wasn't really an exhibit you could research. There were no books for sale or anything, and I just sort of remembered it, and I had a moment, maybe 6 months ago, and this is 15 years later, where I went online and I started searching by her name, and this is before she died, which is weird because she actually died this year. She was 90-something, and she had a great life. But I went on and I found all this other stuff that she had done that I wasn't familiar with, because I'd never been to a major exhibit of her work. I'd only ever seen the spiders, which is what she's so well known for, these just grand scale, sort of amazingly crafted spiders. And a lot of her stuff is these line drawings, and the Tate did a really big exhibit on her about a year and a half ago. And so there's just tons of information, and we just sort of, she made books, a lot of little books and stuff, and there were definitely these line drawings and this certain color palette's what she was doing. So it was interesting. I sort of talked to the team, and we pulled out different bits and pieces, and then definitely looked at the color palette. Interestingly enough, the color palette of her other work is much brighter. The color palette of all the pictures of the spider is a little smokier and softer, so that's where that juxtaposition for the whole collection comes in.
That's great. Yeah, the spiders have such beautiful lines, and they're so just dark and striking.
Yeah, but they're weirdly delicate and feminine at the same time.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, I think a lot of her work is like that. And so, being in New York, getting this inspiration, being in LA, how is it different actually designing in LA? Do you feel like it's a different process in New York? Are you inspired by different things here?
I generally am, I just collect a visual palette of information. Along the way, I have these little books that I put together, and I just sort of have lists of my favorite architects and my favorite artists, and I just, whenever I have an exhibit that I see, I saw Luke Timons, I can't pronounce his name, a couple weeks ago in Chicago, and about the book, I never knew anything about him, but he definitely will be an inspiration later. And a Chinese artist from a trip to Shanghai last year is for next fall. And
oh, great.
so for me, it isn't actually necessarily designed in LA, interestingly enough. It's sort of, when I started the company, I was traveling a ton and I was still styling. So I learned how to design in hotel rooms and airports, and that really works for me, because running the company as well puts me in a position where it's better for me to probably do some of that daydreaming outside of the reality of running a business.
Yeah, that's a very good point. All right, well, let's look at your second item, and this is something that you said has been popular, so you're bringing it back.
Yes.
It's the striped uneven faux neck sweater.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So it's, I think it's $245.
It is $225.
$225. See, look, don't hold me responsible for the dollars ever. It is 100% merino wool. It's super soft, and I have this sort of love for merino, which is an Italian thing, and America loves cashmere, but at a certain point you can't buy cashmere if it's really good until you hit to a certain price. So merino is actually extremely soft and lasts forever, and so I really love using it as a base material. And then we wove it into these 2-inch stripes, and it has a popcorn weave, so it's just got a bit of loft to it. It's inspired by vintage sweater weaves. Yeah. And then it's got an uneven hem, so it's an interesting layer where you could put it underneath a coat and over a tank top or over a skirt. It definitely is multifaceted, and we had a similar style for fall that has become sort of a guilty pleasure, I would say, for not just everybody in our office, but everybody who we personally know who's bought it. Yeah, so it's like the coziest thing you.
Yeah, I love this sweater too, because I'm obsessed with anything striped. So it's a striped sweater, but then the hem is so interesting how it dips down on the side. It looks great with jeans or another shirt hanging out of it.
And it's flattering on all bodies.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, but you can also tuck it into a skirt, and you have an adorable top that way too.
It's really a functional item that you'll want for a very long time.
Yeah, definitely.
I got multiples when I ordered it.
So on the website, you can
I have an advantage, but still.
Yeah, exactly. You can buy it on Closetista.com in the oatmeal and burgundy colorway, which is so great for winter, transitioning into spring, that light oatmeal-y color.
Yeah, I call those rich people colors.
So you can get your rich people sweater on Closetista.com.
Because people, when if somebody's dressed in head to toe like mocha or oatmeal heather,
definitely.
It's totally like that 70s
Richard
Gere moment or something in American Gigolo.
Definitely. And so the pieces we're selling on the website right now are for the holiday collection.
Yeah, holiday 2010.
And what do you think about when you're designing for holiday?
it's so funny because fall is our biggest season of the year, and coming off of fall, there's always ideas and things that maybe didn't quite make sense into the collection that are, I feel for me, holidays are most well-distilled season every year because it is one of the broader seasons where we're doing sweaters and leather and jackets and wools and things that we don't necessarily do all year round, and we're still producing our core product of jersey and silk and interesting sort of textured fabrics. But what I love about holiday is that it's sort of like you've gotten all your basics for fall and you've gotten all the things that you're going to have for all winter, and so these are more fanciful, and I just always think our holiday collection is a little more fanciful than the rest of the year, a little dreamier, and because when we design in spring and pre-spring it's ideas of vacation, and for holiday it's ideas of parties, so and the idea of layering it into the wardrobe you've just purchased from fall.
Yeah, it's always this time of year, like the air is getting a little crispy. I'm always just starting to think about, like, I want something a little different.
And impactful. Like, you want it to have an impact instead of to be practical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's perfect. The third item we're selling is the draped bustier dress.
Yes, party dress.
Which is like, the quintessential party dress. Tell us a little bit about this in cement.
In cement. It's 100% silk ottoman combined with a sheer fabric at the top that I believe is 100% silk. Oh wait, I lie, not 100% silk, silk cotton ottoman. So it's got a bit more substance to it. It's got a little bit of a rib, so it's got like a twill weave to it, and that's why when you'll see in the folds, there's volume to it.
Really
and then,
nice drape.
Yeah, juxtaposed to the softness of the sheer fabric. And it's definitely a structured dress. It's sexy and it's chic, all gray, so it's got this really sort of metallic feel like the spiders do, from a perspective of just taking away an image that's foggy or smoky, but yet it's sort of fanciful at the same time.
Yeah, I love all of like the drapes and the folds in this dress, and the skirt is really simple. It's like the perfect little mini dress.
Yeah.
I think it definitely stands alone. Like you could just show up in this and heels, maybe like some killer earrings, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
But it's also such a great dress for winter. You could kind of layer it with some fun tights or like a big chunky sweater.
We love it with a sweater and like a statement necklace. Even like Oxfords and tights, like you
so
just like that juxtaposition of
flats.
fancy with casual.
Yeah, that's such a great look. So when you're designing like these kind of pieces and you're thinking, all right, I'm doing a party dress, I'm doing like an everyday boat neck sweater, who is your girl? Who are you designing for?
Well,
our customer.
Our customer hopefully comes from a state of mind instead of necessarily a specific age demographic. I mean, coming from advertising for so many years, I love the idea that this person is somebody who makes choices, who enjoys fashion and enjoys art and architecture and all of the things that sort of inspire the collection. And ideally, it's the wardrobe that sort of you wear in the cinematic version of your life. So it's always sort of told from a movie mindset perspective, a little bit of a directorial eye, where it's your costume that you could put on, and so that's why it's so changeable. We love multifunction. I'm sort of Bauhaus obsessed. The idea of form following function. So if something looks great but it also works, it's just like that's perfect. It gives you no reason to not really take it into your life. So the girl's somebody who makes up her own mind. She definitely travels. I think she's somebody who's probably a trendsetter. Hopefully she's not a crazy fashionista who's just like she's not showing up like Miss Guinness, dressed in head to toe couture, but she's definitely somebody who is willing to try things and put things together that are high and low. I love the idea of mixing vintage with it, or something that's not necessarily so expensive with something that is sort of moderately expensive, or I love mixing designer with our stuff as well, so that it's just like, it feels organically like it's you. So, I mean, I would say the girl lives in an environment where I think now with the internet, it's amazing. You don't necessarily have to live in a city to like have access to the culture that's available to you, or the food, or the experiences.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
that's sort of our girl. I think she's fun and sexy without being overt. I mean, that's really the number one thing. There's, every item needs to be chic, it needs to be functional, it needs to be sexy, and then we want you to sort of feel like you've gotten a value out of what you're purchasing, which means you can wear it 3 or 4 different ways.
Yeah, I think you're right in like a perfect place where you can mix it, like you said, with the vintage or the more high-end designer pieces, and all of the silk used like in the blouse and the draped bustier dress. They're just such awesome, luxurious fabrics that can be paired with so many different things.
Yeah, fabrication is a big deal for me, just because I think just, getting to spend so much time in New York when I was a kid, that was a different era. It was much more like Europe then, and people, they weren't mass consuming things. It just didn't exist, and so for us, the materials are really, really important. Very, very important. It's like the number one thing is, do you want to touch? I mean, you have to want to touch it and feel it, and it has to wear. Like, they can be very delicate, and so we try really hard to have things that you can continue to keep for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Like the boat neck sweater, you said everyone's buying it in multiples. Do you live in this? Do you travel in it?
Yeah, I travel in it every time I get on a plane. And I have, it's funny, I will admit, I think I have actually fallen asleep in one and then worn it the next day. Like, I'm sure there was a time period in between. And I will tell you, there's somebody else in our office who did the same thing. And another friend as well. But like, I ran into her, I swear I've worn this every day since I've seen you. And not in a dirty way, just in like, you layered over something. It's not touching your body, yeah. It just sort of works in every sort of scenario. And now that there are more of them, I actually had to fess up to the fact that I changed the color of the one I had on the other day to go to the office, and somebody in the office was wearing the other one, and it was a funny thing. She's like, I wear it all the time, and I said, well, I changed mine to a different color. Yeah. So I feel like I'm not breaking the rules anymore.
Yeah, it's the same, but it's different.
Yeah, no, it's been quite a big hit.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. All right. Well, once again, these 3 items are available on Closetista.com until December 3rd, and 10% of the sales will go to our 3 great charities we're working with: Smile Train, MS Society, and Dress for Success. And I'm so excited to be working with all 3. I think they're all such positive charities, and it's great to just be giving, especially around the holiday season.
Absolutely. There's so much consumption. It's amazing to be able to give back. We'll do it at any turn that we can.
Yeah, sure. That's so great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us all into your house today.
Absolutely.
It was lovely. And we'll see you guys all on Closetista.com.
Thank you.